Hi, TikTok. Welcome, welcome. Ooh, it is warm here. It is very warm where I am. Um, this is a weird time for me to be doing this. I normally do these first thing in the morning. I wasn't going to do one today. I'm taking a little break from what I was doing. I'm getting stuff ready. I'm having a yard sale this weekend, trying to clear out some stuff out of my house. And it's a lot of work and it's hot. So I'm taking a break. And I thought I would take this opportunity to restream your promote coupon to get more viewers. I don't know what that means. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Swipe, swipe. Oh my gosh, it won't let me. It wants me to give TikTok some money. So anyway, I thought I would come on and just do a live, just kind of spontaneously, and really talk about my cat. Just heard me doing a live. She's going to be all over me in a second. She's going to hop up here. Hey, come on, run up. Here's Phoebe. To say hi. I'm gonna try to keep her from flapping me in the face with her tail. That's Phoebes. Hello, Phoebe. Um, she likes to be on my lives. She's a bit of a diva. It's all right. That's how cats are, right? So, um, happy Juneteenth. Today is Juneteenth. If you're not in the US, Juneteenth is a celebration of the emancipation of enslaved people in the US. It corresponds to the day that they were actually emancipated in Texas, which was the last state holding slaves, I think. Um, hello, hello, hello. Nice to see you. Oh my gosh, my cat is gonna be like cuckoo. So anyway, today's Juneteenth. It all happens to be also happens to be Pride Month. So happy Pride to my folks who are celebrating Pride. I am definitely an ally, and I support my LGBTQ plus brothers and sisters. So very happy to shout out to you all. It's Wednesday. I'm in Maine. It's hot here. Maine doesn't normally get very hot. It's very rare occasions, but it's hotter here over the next couple days than it's going to be in South Carolina, which is really weird if you're not from the States. Maine is way up north, South Carolina is way down south. Not everything with the name South in it is far south, but I live in southern Maine, but that is decidedly north of almost anywhere except Alaska. Um, so as far as the US goes, we're in the far northeast and we're getting this really crazy heat wave right now, which is why I'm taking a break and talking to you all at the moment because do I look sweaty? I don't look too shiny, I don't think. Especially not on TikTok. TikTok's got all these filters. They're like, we'll make you look pretty. Um, so TikTok's got filters. I'm really trying to keep my cat from interrupting by walking on my keyboard. Um, so today I'm going to talk about what I'm calling the luminous self. And so I'll start by saying that as human beings, oh, is it hot in Missouri? I can only imagine. Um, what's the temperature in Missouri right now? Gosh, Phoebe. Of course, Phoebe's got a fur coat and she wants to be like all over me and on my lap and in my face and flapping me in the face with her tail and all kinds of stuff right now. And I have two dogs here right now, not on me, but two dogs, and they're very affectionate and they love to just be all on top of you and stuff. But they are, it's definitely a dog's what they call like a dog day, right? It's high 90s. Yeah, same here. High 90s here as well, and fairly high humidity. So it's going to drop by the weekend, but for today and tomorrow, it's going to be crazy hot. I do have I have a splash pad for the dogs, but I don't think they're going to want to go outside and play too much, um, you know, even with a splash pad. I think it's just going to be too hot for them to play outside too much. So we'll see. We'll keep them in here in the AC. Um, but yeah, so as human beings, we're complex, right? We're complex systems of complex systems. If you think about your body, for example, the body is a big physical system, but it has other systems within it. You have a respiratory system and a circulatory system and a reproductive system and skeletal, muscular, nervous, right? Very, very complex. You could study anatomy for the rest of your life and not learn everything about it. And that is only one component of who and what we are. In fact, I would say that the body, we place a lot of emphasis on the body. We're taught from very early age that we are the body. There's a lot of emphasis placed on that. Endocrine system, right? And there's a lot of overlap between these things, right? So there's a lot of overlap, say, between the digestive and the endocrine system, and definitely between the reproductive system and the endocrine system. Went through, uh, you know, 18 years ago when we're trying to have children, went through, hey, welcome, welcome. Yeah, it's a weird time. I'm on at a weird time today, and normally first thing in the morning. But I'm busy. I'm getting ready. I'm having a yard sale this weekend, so I'm like going through all my stuff and pulling it out and moving it around, making a real mess. And yeah, so every system is interconnecting and overlapping, right? So years ago when we were trying to have children, went through fertility testing. I have a funny story about that actually. I'll tell it. It's only slightly off color, and it's the afternoon. I don't care. I'll tell it anyway because I think it's funny. I think it's a funny story. Um, so we're having some trouble having children, and so we decided we were gonna like get some testing done, make sure everything was okay. And it turns out it was okay. Um, oh, we'll stop on by on Saturday. We're gonna be here with selling all my stuff. Not just my stuff. I'm trying to get the girls to like haul a bunch of their stuff out as well. So anyway, so as it turns out, like your reproductive system and your endocrine system are really, really linked. And then when my daughters are twins, and when their mom was pregnant with them, um, the placenta, they had a large placenta because there were two children, caused gestational diabetes. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a thing. That's a thing. So everything is overlapping, interpenetrating. So here's my slightly embarrassing kind of funny story about fertility testing. So we were going through all the testing to find out if there were any issues with us conceiving um, children. And part of that testing, you have a set of twins too. Oh, very cool. Very cool. So part of that testing, the majority of the testing is done on the woman. She's got to go through all kinds of stuff. I had to go through blood test, have blood tests. They did everything from like, testing for STIs like HIV and forget what else they tested for. Went through a whole panel of tests, but also to make sure everything was okay physically. So, um, as you probably know, there are other male tests, right, where a male has to go, the man has to go into an office and provide a sample. We'll put it that way. I won't get more detailed than that, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Hi, how are you? Nice to see you. Um, so, so I go into this clinic, and I've got to, you know, go into this private room and give a sample, which is a little bit nerve wracking when it's in a clinical setting. And you sign in. So I signed in the book, and I was nervous, and I checked the wrong box on the form when I signed in. So then I got, I sit down in the waiting room, and the nurse or medical person, I think it was I think it was actually a nurse, came and got me, and she brings me into this room, and there's a dozen women in this room having blood tests taken, right? And she goes, sit over here, and we're going to get you started. It's literally the word she used. And I said, excuse me. And you come to find out that I had checked off the form for the blood test and not the form for the other test. And everybody in the room, because it was a fertility clinic, knew exactly what I had done, exactly what I was there for. Everybody started laughing. I started laughing. I probably turned 19 shades of red. Anyway, um, Good morning. Good morning to you. Nice to see you. Thank you for the hearts and everything. Appreciate it. So anyway, that's my funny fertility clinic story. Checked the wrong box, got embarrassed in front of, a dozen or so women getting their blood drawn. I was I was the only male in that room at that time. And apparently it happens. So yeah, leave a sample with an audience. No, no, that I don't think they would have appreciated that. But um, anyway, so back to what I was talking about. I was talking about we are very complicated. Um, I didn't to be honest, like, the time between she said, "You sit over here and we're gonna get you started," and, like, my immediate reaction was about half a second, and then within maybe about 5 seconds later, I was like, "I think I'm in the wrong room," and she's like, "Well, you checked off the thing for a blood test," and I said, "That's not what I'm here for," and then that's when everybody figured it out. I don't think I knew what to think at that point. I was pretty sure that that kind of testing is done in private. um, I'm not a shy person, but that was a bit much anyway. So anyway, to we are on a get back to what I was talking about before I was I'm getting embarrassed now talking about it. Um, to get back to what I was sort of talking about, even on just a physical level, we are incredibly complex systems, right? Um, and on a mental level, like so on all planes, if you look at human beings as multi-planar, right? So we have a physical plane that we express, our body through. Our body exists on a physical plane. And then we have a mental emotional plane, if you want to think of it that way. It's just a model. It's not like a, Star Trek thing where I'm going to beam into like in the alternate dimension of my thoughts. Although we can access that, it's not quite like that. But if you think about our thoughts and emotions being on a plane, that is also very complex, right? Super complex. We have a conscious mind, we have an unconscious mind, we have all kinds of stuff going on there. That is incredibly complex. There are whole, schools of study, schools of thought about unconscious processes, unconscious bias, implicit learning, implicit bias, like all kinds of stuff going on in there that we're not necessarily aware of most of the time. We're not aware of most of what's happening in here. Cool, cool. um Spiritual, soul, mental, physical, yeah, yeah, so we can look at those things as different layers or different planes, different universes that we occupy simultaneously. And so we're complex, and we can the other part is we can sort of kind of peel back these layers to get to the sort of the core of who we are, right? We can either There's two ways we can do this. We can go inward or we can go outward, and both are equally valid, right? We can become expansive or we can contract inward. And interestingly enough, both things get us to the same place. And the reason is that those are just metaphors. Contraction, expansion, they're just metaphors for ways of tuning, expanding, getting in touch with the some conscious part, some parts of ourselves that we're not always conscious of. So, um, what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the luminous self is really, really, really deep inside our core being. Is and one way to visualize this, there's a really good practice that Sandra Ingerman was given by spirit and that she teaches called transfiguration. Even though she's a shamanic teacher, transfiguration is not necessarily a shamanic or shamanistic practice, but it's done in sort of a meditative state. Usually you'll play music to get into the right state of consciousness or whatever, and then you bring your attention into what feels like the center of your being, wherever that happens to be. It's usually when we point to ourselves and say me, that's where we can visualize the center of our being. But the reality is that our being, what we actually are, doesn't really have a center and it doesn't really have a circumference, right? We're unlimited, we are formless. But it's easier for our human minds to get around the idea that we are, even our non-physical parts have limitations, or they're shaped like us. Which is interesting because when we imagine things, we're actually operating on what's considered the astral plane. That's how manifestation works, right? Is that we picture things strongly enough that they manifest on the astral plane. This is one way that manifestation works. They manifest on the astral plane, which becomes a template for physical manifestation. And people who and I you know, you don't have to take anything I say and just believe it. I don't want that at all. I'll tell you about my experiences. You can say that sounds like BS, or that sounds true, or that's interesting. I'll, take that and check it out, and, be open to the possibility that that might be true. But in my experience, I have witnessed things that some people would consider miraculous, right? I've witnessed things materializing, dematerializing. I've witnessed people materializing and dematerializing, and I was not on drugs, and I was with other people who saw the same thing. Um, I have witnessed objects materialize, dematerialize. I've witnessed objects move on their own. When I was someday I'll tell, probably closer to Halloween, I'll do an episode on ghost stories. I'll tell ghost. I have so many ghost stories. Um, it's funny. I was interviewed on a paranormal radio show by a bunch of paranormal researchers like a year or 2 years ago, and they're like, "Oh, do you have any paranormal stories?" I'm like, "Do I?" And I told a story I thought was funny, and they freaked out, and they were like, "Aren't you scared? Are you?" I'm like, "How would I be scared? How would you be scared? Like, you guys are like actually the ones going out looking for this stuff to happen. You're trying to like catch this on tape and stuff. How could that freak you out?" Um, but it is what it is. What about temperature? I think I need more context for that question. I mean, perceiving temperature, or I'm not sure. But if you have some clarification with that question, I will be happy to answer that. Oh yeah, ghost stories would be fun. Yeah, I'll come on. I'll tell some ghost stories sometime. Maybe I'll have some guests who will come on and tell some ghost stories as well. I've worked in a lot of one of the things that I do, not a whole lot of, but a fair amount of, is what we might refer to as space clearing or house clearing, which is going in, really like making sure the energy of a place is good. And oftentimes places are haunted. Oftentimes there are deceased spirits that are hanging out there, and we have to help them. Um, in my school, we don't treat discarnate entities as like enemies to do battle against. We treat them like clients. Um, we treat them with love because they are suffering beings. If they're conscious, they are suffering beings. Okay, so we have all of these layers. So you can think of the mental, emotional layer or plane of existence, all of these things. And so there are really, really technical descriptions out there in different spiritual systems, right? So like theosophy has, you have a physical body, you have an energy body or an etheric body, you have an astral body. Now these layers move from substantial or gross to subtle. They become more and more and more subtle. So the most substantial and gross body that you have is your physical body, right? It's physical. It has mass. It's affected by gravity. This body ages. Someday this body will die. You know, this body gets sick. This body has been injured. Feeling pretty good right now. Thank you. I've had two. I eat like two or three. This is This is no surprise to people who tune into me fairly regularly, but I eat like 2 to 3 bananas every day, and I'm not saying that's the secret to good health, but I'm pretty healthy. My grandmother lived to 106, and she ate oatmeal every single day of her life, usually with bananas. So I don't know if it was the oatmeal or the bananas. Maybe I should start eating oatmeal with my bananas. I don't know. I hope that I got some of her genes. All of my grandparents lived at least into their 90s, except for my grandfather who was hit by a car. So the temperature affects the energy of physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, even in the ghost realm. Oh, I wasn't aware of that. I don't have experience with temperature affecting things in other realms, but I accept that that is something that could absolutely be real. And part of the banana family here. So part of the reason is that these layers, these levels, these dimensions, parallel universes, whatever, they're not distinct. They're not. It's so again. So we were talking about how the human body, for example, there's a lot of overlap in the systems. So like the endocrine system and the reproductive system, um, you can't draw necessarily a really super clear distinction between them, right? There's overlap. They overlap, they interpenetrate, they interact. And the same is true for all of the planes of existence that you live on. So in the emerald tablet, one of the foundational pieces of Western esotericism and alchemy and whatnot. And alchemy is the basis of chemistry, by the way. It's where we get the word chemistry from. It's also where we get the word alcohol from, because the alchemists figured out how to distill things and probably tasted them and were like, oh, this wheat water that I've distilled is tasty and makes me feel funny in the head. There were alcoholic beverages before that. There were fermented alcohol beverages before that, but distillation was really, I believe, invented by the alchemists. So it's where we get the word alcohol from. It's why we call alcohol spirits, right? It is the spiritual essence of the plant material removed during the distillation process. At least that's the thought. So all of these things overlap. All of these things interact. They interpenetrate. Your your if they did not, then your mind would not affect your body, right? You would have a thought, this is really stressful, whatever, your blood pressure would just flatline, stay the same all the time, right? You would just about get hit by a bus and your heart rate wouldn't accelerate. Okay, because these things, these layers, they interpenetrate and interact. So it doesn't surprise me that temperature would affect the energy of other systems. And energy is a really good word. Yeah, energy is a really good word. Hello, Denise. Nice to see you again. Yeah, not my usual time. So um I'm on in the afternoon today. Who knew? All right, it was a little unplanned. Not a little, it was very unplanned. I wasn't going to come on today at all, but I needed to take a break from the physical activities that I was doing in this heat. My goodness. Um, so it's really, it's really messy, but it's meant to be that way. It's meant to interact. So the emerald tablet, you've probably heard this phrase or some variation of this phrase. There are different ways that it's translated, but the basic phrase is as above, so below. As above, so below. What does that mean? What does as above, so below means? It means that there are correlates. It's not a one-to-one match. There are correlates between every plane of existence, the spiritual plane, the mental plane, the physical plane. There are correlates. So again, when we're talking like manifestation, causing things, using spiritual techniques to cause things or create, to change probabilities for things to show up in the physical world, we are making templates for them in the astral, essentially. There's a lot more to it than that, but it's a very, very tiny simplification. I'll do a whole course on manifestation someday. Um, Not that I mean, there are quite a lot of them. There are quite a lot of courses on manifestation, but I manifested a bacon pizza the other day. Um, and I mean, I absolutely mean that. I really like decided I wanted to have a bacon pizza, and I went to a place where I get pizza from, and they had one bacon pizza already there, and and it was the only thing they had at the time. So you absolutely love that bacon pizza, or or the fact that I manifested a bacon pizza, or something else. Um, I absolutely love bacon pizza, so it was a great it was a great thing. Oh, manifestation. Yeah, yeah. I do too. And I've had some amazing, amazing, amazing experiences with conscious manifestation. Just um, things that are well beyond circumstantial. So, um, all right, all right. Oh, both. Yes. Okay. I'm gonna manifest us getting sushi soon. That's what I'm gonna manifest next. I'm gonna take you out for sushi, and we'll um might be might have to be in a couple weeks, but I got all kinds of stuff. My daughter's college orientation that apparently I am going to. I'm happy to go to it. I say I have to go to it. Apparently, parents also, when I went to college orientation, it was a week long, and parents were like, they were like, drop your kids off and you're gone. They're gone. They're ours now. So my daughter has orientation next week and on Monday and Tuesday, and I'm going. Parents go. Who knew? Which is pretty cool. So I get to hang out with her a little bit. It's funny because you don't even do a lot of the same stuff that the students are doing. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun. I promise. I'll get good things. Manifesting versus destiny. Um, yeah, so destiny is this idea that there are things that are fated, right? And that there are sort of degrees of that. There are degrees to which things are fated. I realized I started talking about one thing and now I'm talking about something else, but that's totally fine. Um, so there are degrees to which things are fated, right? Things are going to happen. If I jump off a building, it's pretty well fated that I'm going to plummet to the ground, right? Unless something weird happens and changes that fate. So this is cause and effect. This is karma. That's what karma means. Karma is cause and effect. And a lot of people sort of have the idea that karma is sort of like a bank of good deeds and bad deeds that I reap later on sometime in life. And there is a little bit of that, but most karma is like immediate. Like if I go jump into a bear den, karma is going to be pretty instant, right? The result of that action. The issue, for I think, for a lot of people, is that karma um is like this spiritual concept. So they think it's not like, oh, I do this and this happens, but that's exactly what it is. You have died 3 times, flatlined, and still walking. Holy smokes. I know a few people who've had near-death experiences. I lived with somebody who had a near-death experience, and, this is amazingly frightening, but, it changes you, right? It changes you spiritually. It opens you up. I don't recommend going out and trying to have a near-death experience, but there are shamanic cultures where you have to have gone through a near death experience to be selected to train as a shaman in that culture. You have to have gone through some sort of like massive ordeal that would include like a near death experience or getting hit by lightning. Yeah, yeah, I'm sure you don't. I'm sure you don't, but I'm super glad you're still here. Um, so anyway, manifesting versus destiny. So manifesting is not it is not unnatural, right? So a lot of people will think that think that it is magic, but it's not like think it's like breaking natural law, but it's not. You're causing change. You're causing a change in probability so that things line up in a certain way for you. If I, if I don't, I don't know why I'm thinking about this with the weather, but if my steps are icy and I don't put ice melter on them or chip the ice off my steps, there's a very high probability that I'm going to slip off the steps. I can change the probability by going out and salting. Now, I don't know 100% that I'm not going to slip on the steps, but I'm moving probability by doing an action. Now, the idea behind manifestation is that we can change probability by a combination of physical, mental, spiritual activity. Manifestation works best if you combine all three, if you get into alignment in all three areas. So, for example, I manifested a bacon pizza last week. If I had not, I could have, had the thought and done the work and said, I really want a bacon pizza. It is very improbable that one is going to appear on my doorstep. Is it impossible? No. We live in an infinite and expanding universe. Technically, anything is possible. But it's much more probable if I get off my duff and drive to the pizza place that they're going to have a bacon pizza waiting for me. So it's not. Law of attraction doesn't work by sitting on your couch and wishing really hard. Sometimes the issue is sometimes it does work that way, and it has worked that way for me, but that's unreliable. So we have to get into action, but we get into inspired action, we get into aligned action, meaning our actions are in alignment with the spiritual work that we're doing and the mental and emotional work. And the emotional work is extremely critical. If we don't get our emotions into alignment with what we want, it is very unlikely to happen. Um, do I think when someone reaches enlightenment, they understand the layers of our world? So that depends on your definition of enlightenment. There are many different definitions of enlightenment. Um, some of them are quite technical, depending on the spiritual system. However, I do think there is a state of unconditioned awareness that gives people access to the underlying layers of reality. Do people become aware, like simultaneously aware of all layers of reality? I don't know the answer to that. That would be a very profound, probably. There are practices. So in Tibetan Buddhism, for example, there's a practice called the rainbow body practice, where your physical body, so you can think of, this is replicated in the last Star Wars movie with Luke Skywalker. Uh, you actually meditate into a state of where your body dissolves into pure light. Your physical body disappears into pure light. And you can think about, like Jesus and Muhammad being bodily pulled up into heaven, or whatever. These are allegories for kind of the same process. So to me, um, that would be a requirement for something like that to happen, because as long as we have our attention is kind of at least divided somewhat into the physical world, it's hard to get access to every layer of the world. But you can certainly get access to lots of layers. You can see the energy body right now. Like right now, you could see the energy body if you're able to, but you can learn to as well. Um, Hyperfocal mentality in the physical world, starting mentality, combination of yeah, combination of all energy. Yes. So I'm going to talk more about manifestation because that's what everybody seems to want to talk about today, which is totally cool with me. It's my ADHD brain will leap around from topic to topic. If you can't follow, I apologize. That's just how my brain works. Um, so talking about alignment, getting into alignment, getting all of your systems into alignment. If you have a car with four wheels and one of those wheels was off and say pointing at a 45-degree angle over there, your car is not going to run very well, right? Because it's not, you're out of alignment. In fact, every once in a while, it's a good idea to have your car's alignment checked, so that it runs properly and doesn't wear your tires down, and all of those things that are necessary for safe operation of your car. So you're the same way. You just don't have, I don't think you have wheels. You might have wheels, but you have a body, mind, spirit, soul, energy body, mental body, causal body, like all of these things. When you get them into alignment, they're all going in the same direction. This doesn't mean that you have to become hyper focused, driven, type A kind of, you know, roid rage kind of person where like you get things at all costs. And it doesn't mean that at all. It just means you gently come into alignment. And then what's absolutely critical to manifestation is allowing. When we try to take over the manifestation process, when you really try to micromanage how the universe is going to provide things for us, um, that's ego. And that will take you out of the state of manifestation very quickly, immediately. It'll gum up the works. So your responsibility is to figure out the what. What is it that you desire? By the way, there's nothing wrong with desire. Somebody said to me the other day that they didn't like Buddhism because Buddhism teaches that desire causes suffering. And that's not exactly true. Um, Buddhism teaches that attachment causes suffering. So desire is, I want a bacon pizza. I would like to have a bacon pizza. That's desire. Nothing wrong with that, right? Ego is greedy. Yes, absolutely. Um, Attachment is, if I don't get that bacon pizza, it's going to be the end of the world, right? And I better go right now. And I'm going to call them. And if they don't have my bacon pizza, I'm going to yell at the manager. And, um, that's attachment. Attachment will take you out of manifestation. Attachment and control. So will aversion, right? So things that we're trying to push away, we're actually holding in place. Let them go by you. So it's about desire. Desire is fine. I'm giving you permission to want what you want just because you want it. Does that mean you can necessarily have it? Well, is it going to hurt somebody else by you having that? Maybe it's not ecologically fine, but your wanting of it is not a problem. Not for me. Desire is not a problem. However, want is a weird word, right? Want is a synonym for lack as well. So there is this, it was just a boom next door. I don't know if it was a car or what it was. Want is a synonym for lack. So if I say I want a bacon pizza, it's because I lack a bacon. If I had a bacon pizza in front of me, I'm sorry if I keep using that metaphor and making people hungry. It's lunchtime and I haven't eaten yet, except for I had a couple of bananas this morning. I want a bacon pizza, right? If I had it in front of me, I don't want it. It is a synonym for lack, right? For want of a better thing, for want of this. For want of a horse, I lose my kingdom, right? So we have to learn to let go of wanting. That is attachment. But you are allowed to desire anything you want. You still, it's a good idea to run your desires through a ethical and moral filter. If you have desires, man, I sure would like to go steal my neighbor's tractor, right? Like I mow my lawn with a push mower, which is challenging because I've got about 2 acres. But it's good exercise for me and I appreciate it and I like being outdoors. And my neighbor has about 6 acres and he mows with a riding mower. And so I look at it, I'm like, man, I really would love to have a riding mower. And maybe my ego goes, that guy's older than you are. You could push him off that riding mower and take his riding mower. I'm allowed to desire a riding mower, but I'm not allowed to go knock my neighbor off his riding mower and steal it from him, right? So that's where, again, you're allowed to desire whatever it is you desire, but you're still creating karma, right? I'm sure if I knocked my neighbor off his tractor, he's a very nice guy. I wouldn't do that, but I'm sure if I did, the police would come and I'd wind up in jail. That's karma, right? Um, So what else can I say about manifestation? Like a wish list. Yeah, I think people should have a list of desires, and I think you should write them down. There is a lot of research out there that says even if you're just having goals, that writing them down makes it much more likely that you'll actually achieve them. You'll actually get there. So I'll read you something from. I like this guy. What's his name? Scott Haug, Seotthaug. I don't know that he's written a book or anything, but I was reading some of his material. Um, when he's talking, he talks about his imagination as his fourth dimensional self. I like that. I like that terminology. Is it technically correct? I don't know. I don't really care. I understand what he's talking about. Like we have this other dimension to ourselves where we live in our imagination, and our imagination is incredibly powerful. One of the things that says down here in the certificate is that I'm a certified hypnotherapist. And hypnosis, we very often use people's imaginations to make profound changes in their life. That includes things that affect their health, things like pain control, things like biofeedback control over their some of their systems that they wouldn't normally have control over. I can't really speak medically. I'm not a medical professional, so I don't want to like overextend what I can promise, what I can offer. But I can say that there lots of surgery has been done for hundreds of years, by the way, under hypnotic trance. So you can shut off pain signals and do all kinds of things and use the imagination for powerful change in life. Our imagination is unbelievably powerful, and we denigrate it. We denigrate the imagination, at least in this culture. We say it's not real. We say our dreams aren't real. We say the things that we think of in our head aren't real. But what out there, what invention or piece of art or beautiful piece of music or whatever didn't didn't start as imagination, right? What out there, the light bulb, the car, the sewing machine. I think it was the sewing machine. Is it Elias Howe that invented the sewing machine? I think so. The I the and he invented it because his mother was a seamstress, and he had a dream about a needle with a hole in the tip instead of in the back of the needle, and he figured out how to invent a sewing machine, and that changed the world. But he dreamed about it first, right? It first appeared in his imagination. So our reality is a very complex thing. I've talked a lot about this. I talked about a lot about this yesterday. Anyway, Scott Haug says that all things are possible for me when using my fourth dimensional self constructively, right? Fourth dimensional self being the imagination, where I can construct anything. I can be anywhere. I can do anything. I could fly if I wanted to. Now that would defy current laws of physics, but so be it. And he says the self is not limited, which is, I love that. It's a beautiful phrase. Can we manifest the downfall of others like a vendetta? Sure. I mean, it happens all the time. Is it ethical? It might be. I don't know. So one of my favorite esoteric authors, current esoteric authors, is Jason Miller. He's written a lot of books. I think I own actually all of his books, and I think his last book he wrote is called Consorting with Spirits. And so he's what he considers a sorcerer. So he's somebody who does like rituals, ritual spells and magic and that sort of thing. He doesn't consider himself a witch, but a sorcerer. I don't know what his distinction is there, but um kind of interesting that the oldest known physical occurrence of the name of Christ as a name referring to Jesus is a second century Greek vessel it was carved into, and it is probably a piece of a magical incantation, and it refers to Jesus as a sorcerer. The word they used is I think the Greek word is goetias. Goetias is somebody who commands spirits. Um, so kind of interesting anyway. Second century, so as old as they come. Um, and it was found not that long ago by underwater archaeologists. So so anyway, Jason Miller talks about this case where, generally cursing is, can bring bad karma, and you can have all kinds of bad things happen and stuff like that. And um but he used to do work for clients where they would hire him to do things for him. And there was a woman who was being stalked. And I don't just mean like followed around, whatever. I mean, this person was breaking into her house, was a physical threat to her and stuff. So he did some piece of magic, some curse work, we'll call it that. A curse is just baneful magic. It's magic or spiritual, some sort of spiritual work that is meant to be baneful. It's meant to harm another person. So he did this specifically for this woman who is being harmed and stalked. Um, and this person who was stalking her had put a ladder on the side of her house and was up against her bedroom window and was climbing up to her bedroom window and um, fell off the ladder and broke his leg, and then got arrested for breaking and entering. And I don't know if she had a restraining order or whatever. We could argue about the ethics of that. I don't know. It's not something that I do. I've worked a fair amount with clients who have situations where, in some cultures, that's like the norm, right? So, like African shamans, for example, West African shamans, like throwing curses at each other all the time. I don't do it, and I don't do that kind of work. It's a mess, and can become a real mess. Yeah, return to sender. So return to sender is like you can think of it as like I'm rubber, the magical equivalent of I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you do bounces off me and sticks to you. So I'm not opposed necessarily to defensive measures that might wind up sending something back to somebody, but essentially that person is harming themselves at that point. Right. Um, so anyway, so yeah, I mean, you can manifest anything, However, if what you're trying to manifest runs counter to what somebody else is trying to manifest, who knows what's going to happen, right? It depends on the probabilities of things and who is able to manipulate those probabilities better. And on top of that, I do think like you can I don't believe in the threefold rule. I know that is a cornerstone of Wicca and some other systems. And that just says like whatever you send out comes back to you three times. If that were true, anybody who sent curses out would be dead, like almost instantaneously. I've seen some pretty nasty stuff happen with no bad effect happening on the person who is doing it. So I just my experience, but it's a nice way of sort of controlling people and having people think about their actions. But it's not really something that rings true to me, and in my experience is not really something I believe in either. But if you believe in it, it's fine. You don't have to believe what I believe, but it just isn't. Is it dangerous to manifest physical power? So that's a good question. It depends on the physical power. It can be. Um, for example, I'll try to think of a couple of examples here. So, for example, I remember a few years back, and we've all heard of these cases, right, where a child is trapped out of a car, and a mother suddenly gains strength. They'll just say, "Oh, it's adrenaline," and which is true. There would be adrenaline there, but I think there's also something energetic that's happening there, and the mother lifts the car off the child. What they don't tell you afterwards is that that mother probably has injured herself, uh, and that injury will happen, will be in place probably the rest of her life. But was it worth it? Absolutely. I risk injury or death to lift a car off my child? Absolutely. Who wouldn't, right? Um, but you don't hear that part of the story. It's just like, oh, this woman got adrenaline and it made her really strong, and she was able to lift a car off somebody. Um, are there any manifestation no-nos, assuming it's done for good? So good and bad are relative terms, right? So what's good is we could say, well, my personal position is I don't do cursing, right? I don't curse back, I don't attack back. I do curse unraveling. I'll take apart a curse if that's involved with a client that I'm working with. But I don't curse other people. Is it bad to curse other people? I don't know. That's in, that we could get into all kinds of circumstantial stuff. As far as things that I don't do, so my ethics are probably different. Um, uh, my ethics are definitely different than other people's ethics. So I would not do something that takes away somebody's free will, or um, I would always try to manifest something that is in everybody's highest good. So if I'm manifesting a new job, for example, for somebody, like, I'm assuming that there's somebody else that's not going to get that job, but maybe that person who's the job is manifesting for is the best person for that position. So there are things, but it's good to think. So first, think of the world as non-zero sum. That means the universe is really unlimited in what can be created, and so you don't have to take something from someone to have what you want necessarily. The second aspect of that is I don't do things that take away people's free will. So an example of that, a really great example of that, one of the most common things out there is any sort of love magic, right? That being said, we do all kinds of things when we are trying to attract a mate, right? I'm gonna put on some cologne. That's not how I normally smell, right? I'm gonna take a shower and I'm gonna brush my hair and I'm gonna put on nicer clothes than I normally wear. And I'm gonna put my is that taking away someone's free will? Not necessarily. People still can choose whether or not they find the me putting my best foot forward attractive. Um, and we've probably all been in relationships where what we got out of the relationship was not what we signed up for. So that's kind of normal. But love magic so I think it's good. So for example, personally, if I was working on somebody's behalf and they were looking for a relationship, I think that's a perfect thing to manifest on. Um, I'm going to talk about this for a minute because there's some really important stuff concepts here, right? Um, you can get anything you want, but sometimes when you get it, it is not really what you want. So, um, what I find with a lot of people in love type situations, romantic love type situations, is they are trying to manifest a specific person. And first of all, they're destroying their chances of manifestation because they're overly specific. I'm not talking about like you know, I'm gonna make Sally from across the street fall in love with me. Like that is definitely a no-no. I wouldn't do that. But then somebody's like, "Oh, I want a man, and he's got to be at least 6 feet tall, and he has to have a beard, and he has to listen to country music, and he has to have a motorcycle, and he has to have tattoos, and he has to have this, and he has to have that." And the longer your list gets with that kind of thing, the lower your chances are, right? So first of all, I want to manifest a man. Well, that's 49% of the world. Right, and, if you're straight and you're into or gay or whatever, you're into men, that's totally fine, but it's gotta be over 6 feet tall, okay? That's cutting it down. has to be between 30 and 35 years old. Okay, that's cutting it down even further until we get to the point where there are very few people walking around in this world that match that, so that you're trying to fight a really tiny probability. On top of that, you have not talked about the kind of relationship you want. And this is where I think people make big mistakes. I have, I'm sure you've seen this. I've seen this. I might have done this a couple times where you're essentially dating the same person over and over again with the different names and in different packages, but they're the same person and you're wondering why your relationships aren't working out, right? I've seen this time and time again. Oh, I'm really into people with this. I need somebody with these, and it's usually like physical characteristics, right? And I understand initial physical attraction is important in a relationship, but weird science is perfect. Yeah, good example of that. Yeah, qualifications are detrimental. So the more qualifications you put on something, the least likely it is for you to manifest it, right? So, for example, if I'm going to manifest money, and that's a common one, and I've manifested money, and it's happened like surprisingly rapidly. If I say I am going to manifest $5,297.18, okay, but you're not open if $6,000 comes along or $7,000 come along. Like you have qualified the amount. So instead, your desire should be, I want to manifest, I am going to manifest, or I am manifesting, because it should be present tense, stayed in the present tense, um, $5,000 or more, or some amount of money greater than $5,000 or something like that. You have to give the universe wiggle room to give you more than you actually desire. Because again, the more specific we get, and sometimes it's okay to be specific, right? I want to manifest a purple motorcycle. If that's really what you desire, then go for that. But just understand that the fewer qualifications and conditions you put on that, the higher the probability are that it's going to take place. So going back to the question, are there manifestation no-nos, assuming it's done for good? Again, there's good intentions, but good intentions can have really negative outcomes. And so we need to think about that as well, right? So, well, it'd be really great um, if I had a bag of money, it would be really great. I've got a great intention for that. But then if I go out and rob a bank to do that, if I had a bag of money right now, I would, I'm going to build some more low income housing in this area, which is something we desperately need. And I'm going to do good by all these families. That's great. But if I go out to rob a bank to do that, that's kind of a no no. So think about that when you're thinking about manifestation. Think about what you're manifesting, and make sure that there is ecology to what you're manifesting. So in change work and things like NLP and hypnosis, we look at the things that people are trying, the goals. We use goals instead of manifestation in those paradigms. We look at the things that people are trying to manifest, and we say, are they ecological? What does that mean? What does ecology mean? It means, does it make sense when you think about all of the systems that you're involved with? And that includes socially, right? So let's say I want to manifest winning the lottery. Well, look at how that's changed some people's lives. Some people go broke. Some people go bankrupt after winning the lottery. Some people lose all their family and friends after winning the lottery, right? So, think about, like, is there ecology to it? Is there ecology to what you want to manifest? That's an important concern, and not a lot of people think about that sort of thing. And the ways around that are to manifest in ways that are, always tag it with what's in the highest good, what's in my highest good, what's in the highest good of everyone concerned. Just tag it with that and make sure that what you're doing and the sources that it come from. The universe is incredibly neutral, right? We think it's comforting to think that we live in a just universe. We don't live in a just universe. We know this. You just look around. Bad things happen to good people. That's karma. That doesn't mean those good people have done bad things. It means there is a cause and a result. That's it. The universe is incredibly neutral, but it operates under natural laws. And so you can absolutely manifest things that harm other people, or, that harm you, if that's what you want. We do it all the time. Everything, we're manifesting stuff all the time that isn't in our best interest because we're doing it unconsciously. So the idea is to become more conscious about what we're manifesting and have it become, people think about, oh, I really like to manifest things effortlessly, right? I just want to think about something and have it happen. If it worked that way, think about every nasty thought you've ever had in your life towards yourself, towards others, every nasty fear that you've had, every nasty piece of hatred that you've had towards others. Do you really want to have manifestation happen automatically, unconsciously, instantaneously? Probably not. There's a safety mechanism built in. However, as you become less identified with the ego, less identified with the conditioned self, and you start moving into a greater experience of your unconditioned self, manifestation becomes easier and more natural. Um, but you don't have to worry about it because you're not bound to the ego. The ego is the thing that's having the thoughts of hatred or you know um anger and self-hatred and self-loathing and self-disrespect, all of those things. That's ego. Yes, a lot of it's unconscious, but we can transcend all of that, which was kind of the original topic that I was going to talk about today until we got into talking about manifestation. But I don't mind at all. I love talking about manifestation. And I'm going to work probably on a class and probably on a book about manifestation. And I know there are a mazillion out there, absolutely overwhelming number of books on manifestation. I'll give you a couple recommendations though. Check out the work. So if you want to go back to the original, sort of the OG of manifestation, you want to look at a guy named Neville Goddard. Now, the thing with Neville Goddard is he writes from an extremely religious Christian perspective. And if that's not your religion, you have to set that aside and look at what he's actually teaching. You know, he, so his teaching is gold, is absolute gold. He is the granddaddy, the OG of The Secret. In fact, I think they took the idea of The Secret from a lot of the stuff that he had written. But what he's written is gold, but it is couched in the language of somebody who is extremely religious. Um, it's fine. I realize that can be a turn off for some people, but it's still okay. It's still good. It's still truthful. The lessons are still incredibly useful. How do we know if something is true? If it works. If we do it and it works, it's true. That's it. Effectiveness is the measure of truth. Essentially, that's how science works, right? Science, we know something is true when it becomes predictive. So I know that my theory of electricity traveling from higher voltage to lower voltage works because my lights work and my computer works. Even if later on I find out that there's a different explanation for it, right now that's truthful, because it predicts and it works for me. It's effective. Okay. Yes, I know there's much more to the scientific method than that. I fully respect the scientific method. I'm just saying that the fact that stuff works and is predictive is how we know it is true for us. So that works even on a very subjective level. So when I do something to manifest something and that thing manifests, dang. So let me give you something right now. I'm gonna give you, this is a secret technique. So top secrets. I'm gonna swear you to secrecy. Promise you don't tell it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm making all that up. That's just being funny. Um, Here's something that I use to quote unquote find lost objects. And it has worked for me over and over and over and over again. So try it out. See if it works. If it doesn't work for you, then it's not true for you, and that's totally fine. I lose. You know, I've said this a lot. I've got ADHD. I lose stuff a lot. My cell phone, I lose about 4 times a day. Right. My cell phone, my keys, so I had misplaced my passport. It was not in a place that I normally keep it. This is one example of when I've used this. This is a little trick to find things that are lost. Um, so what you do is you sit with eyes closed, assuming it's something that you can put your hand on or hold in your hand. This works really well for things you can hold in your hand, like my passport. So I needed to travel. I was traveling to Chicago, needed my passport. Maine driver's licenses are no longer accepted by the TSA as identification. So I needed my passport to fly, to get on a plane. Wasn't where I normally left it. No idea. So I sat in this chair and I held my hand out and I imagined in the greatest amount of detail that I possibly could that I was holding my passport, that it was in my hand. I used every sense. I could feel it. I could smell it. I could feel the temperature of it. I could feel the weight of it. I could see it. Could see the color, the texture, all of these things. So in my mind, so this is manifestation work, right? This is pure manifestation. So I I opened my eyes and my hand automatically reached back and touched a bookshelf behind me, and exactly where my hand touched is where my passport was. I don't remember putting it there. Maybe I didn't. Maybe somebody else put it there. Maybe it disappeared and manifested itself there. Um, but there was my passport. I have used this to find dozens of objects that I had lost. As long as they're somewhere, as long as they're not like destroyed or somewhere that I can't get to or whatever, I have done this dozens of times successfully. So you can give that a try if you something that you really want to find. Imagine holding it in your hand. I'm not saying it's going to be as immediate as that was. That was immediate. That was the most immediate example I have. It might take an hour or a few or a couple days. I don't know. But that has usually for me it works like within an hour. And it works in part because I let go of the desperation of wanting to find that. So the emotional component is really important. What's his name again? Are you talking about Neville Goddard? Nevillegoddard, I believe. Neville Goddard. Um, s he is so big in sort of new thought spiritual circles and like manifestation spiritual circles that if you just talk about Neville, people will know who you're talking about. You just mention the name Neville. It's sort of like Madonna, right? Go by a single name. Um, they'll know who you're talking about. And in fact, people will sometimes use his name as a verb. So they'll say, I'm going to Nevilize. And he gave a ton, just a ton of techniques for doing this, but they all have the same components. And so some of them are really, really, really simple and really amazing little tools, but it's worth studying. You can find tons of information about him online. Um, all of his books you can find, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I'll do a class on manifestation at some point, and I think I have a book in me regarding manifestation that I'll write it. Right now, I'm working on a I'm working on 2 books right now. One of them is related to shamanism directly, but the other one is called The Unconditioned Self and is about living from the egoless state. It's about experiencing. Very cool, very cool. Yeah, yeah. So he's got a lot of books and there's a lot of material on the web. You can read a lot of his stuff, a lot of things that he wrote and said. And I don't know if there's a like there may be I don't know if there's like an institution behind his stuff. Like the Neville Goddard Institute or something like that. I don't know that, but definitely worth a check out. But so the basic steps are to clarify, to define what it is you desire, the thing that you want to manifest, create. Imagine yourself using your imagination. Imagine yourself in the end state. So imagine myself holding the passport, or imagine myself eating the bacon pizza, or whatever it is you're trying to manifest. Imagine yourself in the end state, and to the best of your ability, generate the positive emotions that you'll feel when you have the end state. Feel those, and then let go. So release the outcome to the universe. And what's happening is very complex, but what's happening is you're templating, you're building an astral template for this, and then you're charging it up with emotional energy, and then you're releasing it to be created in the world. And the more you, again, attachment will take you out of it. It'll sap all of the energy from what you're trying to manifest. So if I'm, constantly thinking about that thing that I want, it will be less likely to manifest. You have to let it go, and don't look under the hood. Don't look, do I have the results yet? Do I have the results yet? Do I have the results yet? Every time you do that, you're nudging away from the probability. So anyway, I've been talking for an hour and almost 15 minutes. I'm gonna get going and have a little lunch, and um, get more stuff ready for my yard sale on Saturday. Excited about that. Excited to get rid of some stuff. It's always nice to clean out, isn't it? It's always nice to declutter a little bit and get rid of some stuff. And I've got stuff from multiple moves and all kinds of stuff. You too, you have a great day as well. You are very welcome for the live. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. You want my stuff? Well, I don't know, you want all of my stuff. But if you're in Maine, reach out to me and I will let you know where and when my yard sale is. Um, yes, I hope so. Come by and buy all my stuff. If there's anything specific that you're looking for, let me know and I will hold it aside for you, in fact. Oh, just my books. I'm probably not selling any books. Those are my precious. I'm like Gollum from Lord of the Rings with my books, and like clinging to them until I lose all my hair and my teeth fall out, and I turn into an ogre. Yeah, I don't know that I'm selling any books. Maybe I might. I got to go through. I've got boxes and boxes of books in my basement, and I at one point donated something like 20 boxes of books to Goodwill, and then donated another 15 later of books that I wasn't interested in. But like, so what I have left is mostly stuff that I want to keep. But um, books are amazing, aren't they? I just I haven't gotten it yet, but I just ordered myself something from Etsy. You can find this if you want. It is a room spray that smells like old books and leather and wood. So it's called like Ancient Library or something like that. So I'm gonna give it a try. If I like it, I'm gonna get like a diffuser and make my whole house smell like old books. I have to make sure everybody else that lives and stays here is okay with that. But they do hold power. They do hold power. Books, there was a time in human history where writing was considered magic, right? Because you could have words that stayed in place and that could be passed on to other people. To post, yeah, I will for sure. Um, yeah, I will definitely post about that. If I ever have a book sale, I will post about it as well. A lot of stuff that I have that I won't probably ever let go of is like rare stuff, like autographed copies of stuff, or like stuff that is very would be extremely expensive to replace because it's out of print. You know, I have some not like I'm not a big like collectibles guy, but if I had unlimited funds, I would collect rare books. and have a space for it. I will definitely post about how I'll spray it. I'll do an unboxing or something. I'll do it live. Um, I think it just shipped out, so I should get it soon. But if I like it, if I really like it, I'll buy like a couple of diffusers and make my whole house smell like that. Then probably I'll start smelling like old books too, and I'm okay with that. You know, I'm okay with that. So if you see me in person and I smell like old books, it could be my old books, or it could be that I've discovered a new cologne. Um, I'd like to make my own cologne actually. Um, I did like I designed a cologne once. It was like through a service that you order. I'm really big into scent and smells, and I don't wear a lot of cologne, but if I do wear something, it's really got to hit me emotionally in the right way. But I try to always smell good, put it that way, for the people who have to be in my presence. Um, but also I think scent affects us at a very deep emotional level. And I've made my own incense out of an ancient Egyptian recipe that was taken off a temple wall. Was quite challenging to get all the ingredients for it. I definitely didn't have all the stuff on hand. I don't know if I'll ever do that again, but the incense is amazing. Um, and ancient incense like frankincense and myrrh actually affect things like your dopamine receptors and your serotonin receptors. You can smell your dreams. That's cool. Um, I'll tell not now because I'm about to sign off, but someday I'll tell the story about I may about how to me heaven smells like chocolate chip cookies. There's a story behind that. I'll tell it someday when I'm talking about death and dying. Um, but anyway, everybody enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, enjoy the rest of your week. I will probably come on again on Friday, probably be in the morning again if I had to guess. I'm not sure, we'll see. It's a weird couple of weeks for me. It's a weird few weeks for me. I will not be on Monday for sure because I will be driving to my daughter's college at the time that I'm normally on, and I'll be at orientation with her. Um, so there you go. But I should be on Friday. Hope to see many of you as possible then. Thank you all for joining in. I appreciate all of you. I love you all. I really do. And you know, hope to see at least one or more of you on Saturday buying my stuff. Come buy some of my stuff. Books or no. Maybe I'll have some books out there. We'll see. We'll see. Talk to you all very soon. Take care.